Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Straightforward topic, let's do it. What's the creepiest encounter you've ever had in broad daylight? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I was in a pilot truck stop and noticed the driver muttering to himself and ogling the pilot workers. I paid for my stuff and walked out. I walked to my car, settled myself, and heard commotion from the store. A woman ran out screaming, "He's killing them!" I called 911 just as the driver, covered in blood up to his elbows, staggered out, opened up a car door of this woman parked up front, dragged her out, and stabbed her multiple times before wandering around the lot. A guy in an SUV drove into him a couple of times, but the dude got up and continued limping around with the knife. Then the cops arrived. Cops ordered him to drop the knife, then shot him dead. He killed 4 people that morning. Strawberry Plains, Tennessee. I slept over at a friend's house after a Halloween party when I was 16. We had a fair amount to drink. Woke up the next day, was waiting for my cab on the road right outside where he stayed, hungover, just minding my own business, when a white van with windows pulls up next to me. A middle-aged woman, well-dressed and very soft-spoken, rolls down the window and starts talking to me. The conversation went something like this. "Hi there, how are you today?" "Hi, I'm good." "We're looking for young, handsome men like yourself to join our group. Are you busy right now?" She wasn't flirting. She wasn't wearing anything revealing. Her calling me young and handsome sounded like something your grandma would say. "No, thank you, I'm busy and going home." "Are you sure? You should reconsider. We really need you." It was at that moment I glanced into the back seat, trying to see whether anyone was with her in the van. There was a person in the back. I focused my eyes on that person and realized what I saw. It was a woman who looked 75 to 80 years old. She was dead. My blood ran cold. I realized the situation that I was in. I didn't say anything else. I just walked back to where I came from and hid behind a building waiting for them to leave. They stayed for 15 minutes. She didn't come out of the van. She didn't call out for me. She just sat there, waiting. When I was around 9, a random woman came up to me and shaked me around and screamed that every problem in the world was my fault. When I was around 16 years old, me and 2 of my friends went into the woods to smoke cigarettes. Obviously did this so our parents wouldn't find out we were smoking. The place we used to go to was like a little open field inside the woods, so there was a couple off trails to walk in and out of, but other than that, the woods were pretty thick. Anyways, just after we lit up the cigarettes, there was a guy in full-on raincoat, even though it wasn't raining that day at all, and he went straight towards us through the thick woods and didn't bother using any of the trails. The weirdest thing was that no one of us could see a face. He had his hood up, but it was daylight, and under the hood, where his face should be, it was just black as night. He wandered straight toward us and stopped when he was about 15 meters away from us, stopped and looked straight towards us for a minute or so, and then just went back from where he came from. Scariest shit I've ever experienced to this day. The Silver Tic Tac. The thing the FA-18 Super Hornet recorded in 2004 that you can now see on YouTube, it was in 2010 over Olympia, or at least from my vantage point, that's what it looked like. I was in a boat on Henderson Bay with my parents. We saw this silvery ovalish thing flying about at incredible speeds. One second, it'd be over the city. The next, it'd be the Olympics. It did this, dancing back and forward, juking and jigging, and then finally just pausing on a dime over the city. It went vertical and just vanished. To get an idea of the movement, imagine someone flicking a laser pointer across a wall. Those erratic, crazy movements, it was like that. Now imagine you're holding a powerful flashlight in a dark night. You shine it against a forest tree line before flicking your wrist upward, off into the night sky. That's how it looked as it shot upwards and into God knows where. The thing that unnerved my dad was the fact that it was silent. He's a retired engineer and said that we should be hearing sonic booms at the speeds the thing was moving at. The way it flashed between the city and the Olympics was unreal. It was broad daylight, no clouds. Then, years later, I see what looks like the same thing from that Hornet footage. I don't know what we saw, but it broke the laws of physics as I understand them. Super unnerving, to say the least. Alright, so just testing the levels. Where are you at in terms of extraterrestrial or government technology in terms of UFOs? Real, otherworldly, or here and secret? When I was in middle school, probably around 13, my friend and I, both young girls, were walking back to my house from the local Sonic, and this high schooler approached us, and he was holding a box of gummy worms. There was a car parked close by with someone in the back, and he said, "Hey, it's my buddy's birthday. Would either one of you be willing to give my buddy a BJ?" I said, "Gross, no," and pulled my friend along. My friend asked what that was, and I told her. I never told an adult, but looking back on it as an adult, this was so effed up. When I was 16, I was on vacation, and we were staying in this house in a neighborhood. When I was walking my puppy, an unmarked van stopped up the road and across the street from me. Thought maybe it's just a maintenance van, but it's weird that it was unmarked. Two guys get out. One starts walking across the street to where I was walking. The other is standing in the road. I start sprinting the other direction and across the street into a park where my mom was at. The van actually, intentionally or not, followed and parked in the parking lot of the park and waited for almost the whole time we were there. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but it always seemed kind of weird. When I was 14 or 15, I used to roller skate around the block a lot. One time a group of guys in at least their 20s in an SUV started following me and catcalling me. They'd made me really angry at the time. Around the same area a few weeks later, a guy sitting on his front porch invited me into his house for some Italian ice. He was a friendly guy who I always said hi to, but specifically asking me to come inside. Not even bring the Italian ice he supposedly had outside for me to taste forever changed my view of him. Creepy AF. I was visiting a friend in Florida, and when I went to pump gas for my rental car, a homeless black man came up to me asking if I knew about BLM. I don't know if he was trying to start a conversation, but I didn't want to offend him, so I said yes, and I support it. I support the idea behind the movement, not the actual group, but again, I didn't want to offend him. He said if I support it, then I should bend over. I was shocked and really afraid. He then pulls out his D and proceeds to say, "I'll R you right here, and no one can do anything about it." I was so afraid I ran into the gas station shaking, asking the cashier to please lock the door and call the cops. We made a report, but the homeless guy had already left a long time ago. I'll never visit Florida ever again. The crazy thing was that it happened in broad daylight with people walking around. Some saw his dick too. Some had been listening to the whole thing and did absolutely nothing. When I was 14 years old, I was walking my dog to pick up my brother from elementary school. I was walking for literally 5 minutes when a sedan pulled over on the other side of the road, and a man in his late 50s or early 60s exited the sedan and walked across the road straight towards me. I instantly had a bad feeling, but since I had my dog with me, who was a pit mix, I thought he'd keep his distance and wouldn't get too close to me. He approached me, and once he got closer, he noticed my dog wasn't acting aggressive, so he started talking to me. He asked me if I lived in the area and if he could give me a ride to where I was heading towards, which I denied both questions. He then made a comment on my green Converse shoes and proceeded to tell me I was very cute. At this point, I was so uncomfortable and knew I needed to get away from this guy. He extended his hand towards my hand where I was holding my dog's leash after telling me his name and wanting to shake my hand, but as he was reaching for my hand, I moved it away and he grabbed onto my pinky finger. Then he tightened his grip, but before he could get a better grip on my hand, I dropped my dog's leash and bolted across the street away from the direction of my house and hid in a house that was under construction. He then ran back to his sedan after I took off, and he expressed that he was angry that I ran away from him. I then called my parents and we called the police, but they never found the guy, even with the description of the sedan I gave. It's unfortunate that they couldn't find that guy after the description that you gave. I mean, terrible. Was hiking in a place I've been to many times before and since. Would occasionally stop and listen when I noticed everything was dead silent. Walked another 100 feet or so before stopping and still nothing. Now started getting the feeling of being watched. Walked some more before stopping and the feeling got even stronger. Bothered me enough to pull out my .45 and chamber around. Suddenly the feeling went away and the woods came back alive. Birds, wind, squirrel barking. Never experienced that before or since. I was walking in a park on a sunny afternoon when I noticed a man sitting alone on a bench. He was staring intently at a children's playground, which struck me as odd. As I passed by, he suddenly started talking to me about how beautiful the kids playing were, and how he wished he could capture their innocence forever. It gave me an uneasy feeling, and I quickly walked away, making sure to keep an eye on the children from a distance until I was sure he wasn't approaching them. It was a creepy encounter that reminded me to always trust my instincts. X and I day hiking a section of the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania. Black Labrador Cleo with us. She was about 18 months old, still sort of puppyish in behavior, loved everyone, but also fairly large. She loved everyone, and random strangers loved her. She was an excellent trail dog, always came up to us when called, went way off trail to do her business. We'd encountered a handful of people coming our way, all obviously day or through hikers, from their gear. Cleo always came back to us when we called her because you never know about human-canine or canine-canine interactions, and most everyone else had a dog with them. All well and good. Every interaction was fun and positive, if brief. We had stopped to change our daughter's diaper trailside. Cleo had ranged ahead, no cause for concern. Suddenly she came running back to us, whining, hackles up, and pressed herself between the trail and my wife, who was then holding our daughter. We were a little spooked, but then got a little spooked when this guy came around a bend in the trail. White, average size, unkempt, but otherwise unremarkable. Late 30s, early 40s, dirty blue jeans and once white sneakers, and a t-shirt that was stained in a way that made me immediately think dried bloodstains. No hiking gear at all, not even a water bottle. For those who don't know, the Appalachian Trail through Pennsylvania is extremely rocky. Canvas sneakers are entirely inappropriate. We were then 6 or 7 miles in either direction along the ridgeline from anywhere. Maybe if you were vertical across the contour lines, you'd be somewhere, but it'd be a hell of a slog. So I'm thinking, where the hell did this guy come from? Where is he going? As he gets closer, Cleo begins growling. We'd never heard her growl. We'd never seen her bare her teeth either, but there they were. The guy is watching her as he passes us. I try to be normal, something like, "How you doing?" He doesn't even glance at me, nor my ex and daughter, just sidles past, watching Cleo the whole time. She stops growling a minute or so after he disappears down the trail. Her hackles finally settle down about 5 minutes later, but she stays super close to us for the rest of the hike. No more roaming, no more greeting other people or dogs, just weary and sticking close by. Pretty sure he was a serial killer. Missed that dog. I've been in parts of the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania around Mount Tammany. Yeah, good area, and would be suspicious, to say the least. So yeah, good dog. I was out throwing trash when I thought I saw a dead body. The guy was just laying there in the middle of the street, no motion at all, not even breathing. I was shocked and afraid, so I threw a small pebble at him to wake him up. Still no response. I shouted, no response. I had to call my brother from my house, and he came out rushing with me. My brother threw a small hand-sized rock at the guy's chest, and he finally woke up. Turns out he was just drunk. I was young, still in grade school. I was at the park, and my mom went to the bathroom. I was just swinging along, and then a boy by himself approaches the park. In my country, colored eyes aren't normal. Asians don't have colored eyes usually, and I'm a half-breed. This boy approaches, and I keep swinging, and he gets scared. He asks me to stop looking at him with my creepy eyes and screams they're getting bigger. He slowly backs away and runs screaming. My mom came back as the boy was running, and I just stared at her bewildered. My eyes are a honey or hazel color, unusual in my country, but nothing to warrant that sort of response. It was the only time that had ever happened to me. I mean, someone being intimidated by the color of my eyes. I was once shopping at the market when a little girl, definitely no older than 5, kept staring at me from across the aisle. I only noticed this because she kept craning her neck as I walked past and to another aisle. Once I'm in the next aisle, she's staring at me again. Because I was focused on my shopping list, I didn't see her walking ever. When I got to the cashier, she wasn't there. I'm going to assume her parents brought her to another part of the store. I was on the train going home from school, and I had my teddy bear with me. One fact about me, I looked younger than I am. Currently I'm 20, and I look like 12, but at the time I was 18. This dude sits right across from me and then says, "Hey girl." I feel weird. I said, "Hi," small voice. He asked, "Who gave that teddy bear?" I think I said to my dad or boyfriend. It was true, they both gave it to me. Then he said, "Oh, I'll be better than your little boyfriend." Then asked me how old I was. I lied and said I'm 14. Normally this works. By then, now guys accept that I'm that age and leave me alone. But he said, "Oh, that's okay." I said that bad because he said that a number. So I noticed my last stop here, so the door opened and I ran off the train to go upstairs, where all the buses are, and my bus already there, I jumped on. The amount of times the guy catcalls me, probably high chance they think I'm under 18, it's gross.